Dr. Pathiranage has served in many senior management positions, including as the CEO of Sri Lanka's largest residential real estate solution provider, leveraging his expertise in construction, business strategy, consulting, and corporate training. In addition to his corporate accomplishments, he has published many researches, establishing new concepts and equations. His research work is read and cited worldwide and has positioned among the top 8% globally in the area of business administration. As a passionate educator, Dr. Pathiranage has lectured at universities, sharing his multidisciplinary expertise with the next generation of professionals. Before we begin, let me quickly go over a few housekeeping rules. Please do have yourself muted throughout the session, and you can use the WhatsApp group for any communication purposes, but not the Zoom chat. Any messages sent in the Zoom chat will be disregarded. Thank you. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Yasas Pathiranage to share the virtual stage with us for this discussion. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. So as a start for this discussion, could you please explain to us the prevailing context of cost and time overruns in construction projects, and what are the probable reasons for such overruns?
Yeah, I mean, if you really see this context of cost and time overruns in construction projects, there are a lot of research done in this area. And generally, 9 out of 10 projects are incurred time and cost overruns. And if you take like 20% of cost overrun would result up to 80% of, 20% of time overrun would result up to 80% of cost overrun. So that indicates the significance of this issue in terms of project delivery. So reasons such as unclear project scope, inaccurate estimates, design errors, unforeseen changes, administrative errors, and poor communication can be taken as probable reasons as per the research.
Yes, sir. So as we understood, mitigating cost and time overruns are very significant factors for a successful project completion. So what is meant by a strategic approach, and how can it be effectively implemented?
Yeah, actually, if you take a strategic approach, it is basically a proactive approach than a reactive approach. And also, the concept is a holistic approach, amalgamation of correct use of project management tools and techniques, proper planning of project cost and time, effective resource management, avoiding rework, and project cost and time optimization, effective cash flow forecasting, and project monitoring and control.
Okay, so in your experience, how important is it to adopt a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach when managing these construction projects?
Yeah, generally, with our experience, we see lots of people, particularly in construction projects, they try to find the solutions for problems when they occur. But that is basically a reactive approach. You react to a certain problem, right? But in a strategic level project management, strategic approach is not that. That is called a proactive approach. In proactive approach, we have to find the solution, or we are preparing with the solution before the problem occurs. Why? Because preparing a solution, it takes some time. So if you come across a problem and then you are trying to solve the problem, and it takes some time, it's simply a time overrun happening, and consequently cost overrun also happening. So this approach, you are preparing for the solution before the problem occurs. And also, another interesting phenomenon, another interesting area that we will focus on this is risk-based thinking, right? That means when you want to, now you have to be aware about all the prevailing risks which the project should undergo, And then you have to think about that as an example when you are doing a project in a floody area, right? The flooding area, so that you have to, sometimes today is a very sunny day, right? But you have to prepare for it, prepare for floods. So that is called the risk-based thinking. And then you can assure your project to run without any difficulty. It's like you can assure seamless flow of activities. That's basically the proactive approach.
Yes, sir. So, what is the significance of correctly using project management tools and techniques in these projects? And also, how can they contribute to better cost and time management?
Yes, actually now it is basically application of knowledge into practice. As we know, a lot of professionals who are engaging with construction projects today, they are savvy with a lot of knowledge, right? They have graduates and they have gone for a lot of training programs, right? They are savvy with a lot of knowledge, a lot of techniques. But the great unfortunate is they are not practicing those techniques in the real life, in the sites, right? So here I would say project management softwares are playing a vital role. And most interestingly, the newest addition for those is artificial intelligence based software additions. Those software additions can support project managers optimizing all aspects of areas in project management. As an example, for resource optimization, material optimization, like all those things that AI additions can support for project managers.
All right, sir. So, could you highlight how we can implement proper planning for project cost and time?
Yes. Now, if you say proper planning for project cost and time, having a clear project scope is a predominant factor or predominant thing that to arrive with good cost and time estimates. So based on the clear project scope, we have to arrive with detailed drawings, BOQs, time schedules, and other estimates. So that preliminary estimates we call baseline estimates of cost and time. So that's how we are arriving with proper planning for cost and time estimates for the certain project.
Yes, sir. So, how can effective resource management strategies help in mitigating cost and time overruns in construction projects? Also, it would be great if you can provide some practical examples on that.
Yes. Now, it's a very good question. Now, if you say resources, like resource management is a key to a project success, right? So generally, in construction industry, if you say material wastage, it's around 5 to 10%. So if somebody can save that 5 to 10% of wastage, it will be a direct profit for the project, right? So that means we have to try our level best to minimize material wastage. And also, we need to focus on unlock more value from fewer resources. That means to get the best value of our money, right? So for that, there are a lot of things, a lot of areas being researched. Now, for that, design aspects and operational aspects are there. Design aspects are there. As a given example, say if we give an example like for tiling process, say the process of tiling. So that say when we are laying tiles for a 8.5 by 11.5 room, right? So that means when you say when you do 2 by 2 tiles, lot of tiles being wasted due to cut. So instead of having 8.5 and 11.5, 8.5 by 11.5 rooms, we can think in the design stage, okay, why can't we have by 8 by 12? So that means we can lay tiles without any cutting. So that means we can save a lot of material from that. So that is called the design aspects, right? The operational aspects means that in the site level operation, like site operation level, you are measuring the material wastage and trying to find solutions, right? So as an example, so you can say, okay, so we'll take the same example. So like tiling. So then if you say this much of tile being ordered, this much of tile being laid. Now you know, so what is the wastage, right? So you can measure those wastage weekly by week or month by month like that, and we can try your level best. Sometimes the wastage might be due to the cutting machine, sometimes that be due to some transportation, something like that. So you have to find a solution for that. And there are the operational aspects. And the other important thing in the context of resource management, when we are called resource, we have a 3 M's. That is machine, manpower, and material, right? So that means we have to make sure that all these resources won't idle. So that is where we do proper resource allocation, right? By proper resource allocation, what we make sure is we have to make sure nothing being idle, right? So, and then even like we talk about the material first. So then for materials, we have seen some of the sites, there are a lot of material being ordered and stacked. So that is money. It's a waste of money. And some instance we see there are not plenty of enough materials to do the construction or to have a seamless delivery of construction. So that means then that's the issue. For that, you need to have a supply chain optimization. That means you need to make sure, okay, based on the schedule, you have to bring the correct material on correct time and keep it. So because staying material at site, it's a cost. And also without not having material at site also, it's a cost overrun because it's a time overrun, then it leads to a cost overrun as well. So you have to make sure on that. And then I would suggest, like, I mean, we can take the advantage of economies of scale. That means, like, as an example, when you are making a construction project which demands for high volume of ready-mix concrete, so you can simply plant a concrete plant. So you can establish a concrete plant in the site itself. So we are trying to get the concrete at a very low price than the market. And also another advantage with that, you are making sure the availability of concrete throughout the project without any problem, right? So like that, you can have the economies of scale advantage bringing into the resource management. The other important thing is nowadays a lot of people are talking about the circular economy principles. Circular economy is you are using the waste of some product, one product as an input for the another product. Then I mean, you're trying to get use of the waste for another purpose. So that's a basic fundamental of circular economy. Just as an example, say when you are having a say when you are having a big construction site, they are involving a lot of excavation, right? So then excavation material is a waste. Excavation material is a waste. So then you have to transport away, right? You have to transport away. So then, rather than doing it, you can make eco-friendly bricks from that excavated material. So that bricks can use on the site itself. And the construction cost, the production cost of this bricks is very low because you have the raw material in the site itself, right? So those strategies would help to have an effective resource management, would reach to uh, mitigate cost and time overrun of a project.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. So as we know, in construction projects, rework is a significant contributor to cost and time overruns. What measures can we take to avoid or minimize rework in construction projects?
Yeah, actually rework is very undesirable thing which can happen in a construction site, right? I mean, we have to take we have to take each and every step in order to avoid rework rather, right? Because rework means it's simply if you find a rework in a certain activity, that means you are simply double the cost and time of that activity, or sometimes triple the cost and time. So it's very, very undesirable error, right? So proper planning is the only remedy to avoid rework. But sometimes for a larger projects, we feel that there are certain issues. Due to some issues, rework happens, right? For that, you have to try your level best to minimize the rework volume. So how we are going to do is, you have to identify, you have to carefully investigate what is the reason for rework. That means to identify the root cause, right? So identify the root cause and take corrective action is far more important than taking a correction. Because generally when you say correction, so if you find a rework, if you have a error, if you find an error, you take a remedial action, right? But if you don't take a action to its root cause, there's a tendency of that error again repeated, right? So it might be repeated again and again. So then each and every time you have to do that correction. So that you can't do. But when you find a rework, you have to find the root cause and take corrective action instead of correction. So that is what you have to do. And as an example, now all these rework, I mean, even for construction management meetings and even site meetings, you need to have a special schedule to review these reworks. As an example, now you have to document all those things. You have to document all the reasons for those reworks, right? And as an example, for last year we had this much of rework, and this year this much of reworks, and this is and increment of that. These are the reasons, and you have to identify those things and take corrective actions then and there. And if you don't do that, what will happen is rework will be increased, and then it's going to be beyond your control, and simply it will double or triple your cost.
Yes. In the context of delivering the project, what strategies or methodologies do you recommend for optimizing project cost and time?
Yeah, it's very good question again. Basically, optimizing project cost and time is the predominant thing for a project success, right? There are a lot of tools that we can use. One concept is called the network crashing. So network crashing, what we do is we assign more resources to a certain project or certain activity, right? And we assign more resources to a certain activity. By doing that, we are reducing the time required to complete that particular activity. That's basically the fundamental of network crashing. But when we are doing that, you have to make sure that the activities, you can do that only the activities which is in the critical path, because for the non-critical activities, I have not any link with the timeline of the project, right? So you have to make sure that because thing is crashing is a very costly activity. Why I'm saying so? When you do crashing, it will increase the direct cost. What are direct cost? Labor cost, material cost, equipment cost, and all that. So when you crash it, you have to assign more resources, and it will increase the direct cost. The same time, it will decrease the indirect cost. What are indirect cost? Overheads, outage losses, high, etc. Right? And when you are doing that, the fundamental rule is that when you are crashing the critical activities, you can't crash all critical activities. You have to crash only the critical activities where whom the cost slope is less than the indirect cost. Because what will happen if you, I mean, generally I have seen many instances, project managers tends to project crashing by assigning more resources. And then they said that, okay, we have crashed some of the activities, but we have not got the desired results. Instead, the cost has increased because they have not done these calculations, and they have assigning resources on the all critical activities, but assigning resources critical activity where the cost slope is higher than the indirect cost, it will simply increase the cost of the project. So you may have a timeline reduction, but simply increase the cost of the project. So therefore, the rule of thumb is you have to crash critical activities whose the cost slope is crash cost per unit time, right? Cost slope is less than the indirect cost of that particular activity. That is a must. And also, from that, you have to plan the minimum cost and optimum duration for the particular project. So optimum duration is the time at which the project can be delivered at the minimum cost, right? So, and vice versa. So you have to plan for the minimum cost and optimum duration for the project. So that's how we do project cost and time optimization.
Yes, so to make that point much more clearer, can you please explain what critical activities is?
So critical activities are the activities like if you when you have a project plan, those critical activities are linked together. That means the one critical activity, the critical path, all the activities need to complete in a flow. So that means one activity needs to completely finish till the next activity started. So that is why the timeline of the project is dependent on those critical activities, the critical path.
All right, sir. So as we know, cash flow forecasting is a predominant factor for successful project delivery within the budget and timeline. Can you explain the best practices and tools for accurate cash flow forecasting and its impact on project success?
Yeah. Successful project managers are always think about their project finances, basically the cash flow, right? So without cash flow, the understanding of the cash flow, you can't run a big project, right? So when you say cash flow, there are some components that you need to have a comprehensive understanding. What are those? Those are like income, right? That is cash in, and expenses, the cash out. I mean, you have to understand those elements, particularly with the timelines, right? And that means when the cash is coming and when the cash is going, right? So timeline. And also the cash reserves you have. I mean, such as like cash in hand. So if you are another one is like if you are trying to manage your project with a bank facility, the lines of credits, and other sources of funds that can be liquidated quickly. All right. So those cash reserves are to manage to unexpected expenses or cash shortfall of the project. The other important concept in this cash flow forecasting is that the maximum capital. That means when you are getting the highest demand for a money, right? Actually, this factor is used to measure your financial feasibility as well. As an example, say when you have a 24 months project, right? When you have a 24 months project, say in the 8th month, you will have that you will require the highest demand for the money, and then you have to consider that 8th month. So then if you are when you are financing this with the bank facility, so if the maximum value of that bank facility, the value of the bank facility is 2 billion, right? And if your maximum capital is 2.2 billion, then you have to make sure that, but by 8th month, you have to have an additional cash infusion of 200 million to the project. If you are failing to do so, the project will stop, right? So those things you have to manage, and you have to understand upfront by doing all these cash flow calculations and plotting these graphs and updating those graphs regularly, and you can have an understanding, and you have to prepare for these highest demands for the money with the sufficient cash infusions and cash reserves, right? So then only you can have a smooth flow of execution of the project, right? And other important thing is there are some potential financial challenges like rising material cost. So then you as a team, you need to have an understanding about the potential financial challenges as well, because those things cannot be solved, or the solutions can be arrived with overnight. So it takes some time. So then have to have those things upfront, so that you can make sure that based on that, you can make informed decisions, because all these numbers are with you, and based on that, you can inform decisions, and based on that, you can assure a seamless delivery of the project.
Yes, sir. So project monitoring and control are essential components of construction project management, as we know. Could you elaborate on the key elements of an effective monitoring and control system and how it can help in mitigating cost and time overruns?
Yes. Now, project monitoring, is another important aspect when it comes to like mitigation of cost and time overruns of a certain project. So there are a lot of methods that we can use. Methods such as network diagrams, Gantt charts, CPM called critical path method, and PERT, it's very popular, program evaluation and review technique, WBS, work breakdown structure, and such methods we can use to monitor a project. So whatever the method you use, you have to make sure the importance here is you have to always measure, in the context of monitoring, you have to always measure the deviation against the baseline. And as an example, now, say for certain activity, your expenditure is 500 million, but you have arrived at 550 million. So that's a deviation. Or you might not other way around also. So then for deviations, and if you say 550, you need to have a clear understanding about why this has increased, right? And then you have to find the root cause and take corrective actions, right? And certain critical parameters you want to measure, you can get use of the help of KPIs, that means key performance indicators, right? There are two types of KPIs can use. One is lead indicator and the other one is lag indicator. So if we say KPI, most people are using lag indicators. As an example, for certain activity, say that activity has 6 months period, that activity, and then you are measure the cost element after 6 months, and you say the KPI say, okay, now when the KPI fails means that you are not done according to the budget and the timeline. So you have to now, in that case, like if you use lag indicators, you have to wait till the end of the project or end of the activity to measure the success or the measure the performance. So lead indicators is something different to that. Rather, you wait for the later of the end of the activity. So instead, you will measure the cumulative cost like week-wise. So then by third or fourth week, if you are out of track and if your budget or if your expenditure increase the budget, so then you will be for sure ended up with a higher cost after 6 months. So then in between you can do slight changes, and you can if you find the root cause, then you can take a corrective action for it, and then you can eliminate the issue of the get the solution for that, and you can back on the track. right? So then you will not wait till the end of the activity, but you are trying to have the solution within. So that is called the lead indicator. So that in the successful project management, you need to have both type of KPIs to monitor. The other important things, actually, as I discussed about the previous section also. So when you are having a project monitoring, so when you are seeing an error, right? So don't try to fix that error alone. You don't try to fix that error. So what will happen if you try to fix that error means there's a tendency of repeating that error again and again. So always when you see an error, always you have to focus what is the root cause and what is the mere reason to cause that error, and try to find a solution for the root cause and try to make sure that is reoccurrent. So that is how you have to do. And proper construction management, like monitoring, construction monitoring has to have all these fundamental things on the board.
All right, sir. Thank you for that comprehensive overview on strategic approach for mitigation of cost and time overruns in construction projects. Your insights into this prevailing issue were truly enlightening. Audience, now the time has arrived to ask any questions you have on this regard, and please do send them in the WhatsApp group. We will be giving around 3 minutes for you all to send in your questions. All right, so moving on to the questions received by the audience. The first question is, how can we handle unforeseen challenges that may impact project budgets and timelines?
Pardon, Hansi, I couldn't hear you properly.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yeah, tell me again.
Yeah, so the first question is, how can we handle unforeseen challenges that may impact project budgets and timelines?
Yeah, it's a very good question again. As the name unforeseen, right? You can't do anything without other than facing for it, right? But when you, because unforeseen, like, you don't know anything about it and you don't have any experience, and it is not like, it's suddenly happening. So you have to make sure that, but you have to face it, right? You have to make sure that you have to study the problem in detail, right? And you have to brainstorm the solution, because there are a lot of experts in the sites itself. And if you don't have that expertise, you can hire some expertise, right? With your expertise and knowledge, you have to brainstorm the solution. So, but definitely it takes time and cost. So I would suggest, now we have, in the early stage of this discussion, we have discussed about the optimizing the time, right? As an example, now if you have a 24 months time and you have optimized that to 22 months, right? So now you take that plan and you drive the project with 22 months period. So that means at any given time, you are ahead the schedule, right? So there's a float of 2 months. So that float can accommodate the unforeseen challenges. That's the only way that you can deal with the unforeseen challenges other than facing it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we have another question. How can we foster effective communication and collaboration among project stakeholders to mitigate cost and time overruns?
Communication, or if you say effective communication, is a like important factor in project management, right? So I would say that, okay, now if you say communication, the fundamental thing for the communication is you have to open with the data, or you have to open with the information, right? So that means, as an example, if you are if you are if any activity, say there's a 20 people are involved with this activity, if something happens, say cost overrun or any error or anything happens, all these people concerned, right, should know about what they have done wrong, right, where they have gone wrong and what is the reasons, and in all that everybody should know, not only the project manager, everybody should know that. That means we have to be open with the information. The other thing is, if you say communication, it should be vertical communication, right? Vertical communication, not only from top to bottom, but also from bottom to top as well. So that means what is happening on the ground needs to be communicated to the decision-making table without any delay, with, without any loss of information, right? So that is very, very important aspect. The other thing I would suggest is that the transparent rationale for arriving solution for problems. So I am saying so because generally when subordinates are going for seniors or superiors for certain solutions, the superior would say, okay, this is they will give the solution and send the subordinate back. The subordinate will happy. But instead of doing that, I would suggest share the rationale of arriving solutions. So then what will happen is, the next time the subordinates are having a similar kind of issue, they will not run for the superiors for solutions. They know how to solution. The rationals they were aware, right? So they can handle the problem on their own. So that is a very important factor, to share the rationale of arriving solutions for problems, not only direct solutions.
Yes, sir. There's another question. What's the importance of incorporating sustainable practices that can impact project cost and time?
Sustainable factors.
Sustainable practices.
Okay. So now if you say sustainable, right? I mean, it comes to mind directly the triple bottom line. That is 3 P's of sustainability. What are those three P's? Profit, people, and planet. That is the environment, right? So in good old days, people looked only profits. But now people understand them to arrive profits, like only P, like profit alone will not help. They want to have the other pillars as well. They have to give focus on the other pillars as well. As an example, like for people pillar and then the environmental pillar in order to secure or in order to have their sustainability of profits, right? Say as an example, say now when we do, like we discuss about how to manage project or how to mitigate project, mitigate time and cost overrun of a project, right? So then if we can do that, what the strategies we have discussed in the discussion, for sure you will be ended up with this project within the timeline and budget. So then it's a assurance of that you are delivering the project on profit. Okay, first piece that. But you have to make sure the sustainability. If you assure this profit for a long, you have to make sure that it's sustainable. You have to safeguard the people, right? Say if now construction safety is predominant factor in this. You have to make sure a people like it's a work friendly environment and a safe environment for people to work. As an example, if your key people gets meets with an accident, then your project will be delayed, right? And the same time, I mean, you have to make sure that you can't harm the environment, right? You can't harm the environment. I mean, you have to reduce the pollution, right? What will happen if you harm the environment? Again, you can't run the project, right? I mean, again, your sustainability matters. So like that. So that is how these three pieces are connected together.
All right, so the other question that we have is, how can we mitigate time overrun due to adverse weather? Is there a method of recording time duration of heavy rain and considering expansion of project time duration?
Can you repeat it, Hansi? I was not clear.
Yes, sir. Yeah, sorry. How can we mitigate time overrun due to adverse weather? Is there a method of recording time duration of heavy rain and considering expansion of project time duration?
Yeah. Actually, now it's like now if you say like in a weather, right? Whether you are recording daily, right? And when you are planning the project, you need to account your weather factor. As an example, when you are doing a project in a more rainy kind of a floody area, you can't you have to keep that in mind and not when you're setting up this activity time durations, right? That is one aspect, because you can't have no normal activities, like it's a you have to play with the weather, right? And other thing is, even with that, if you are now like if you are managing a project and due to some reason the weather has caused and all, so that you have to prove it with some correct uh, method. That means you are recording the weather, then you can say, okay, this today, like out of the total construction hours, this much of time been lost, like that. And if you prove that, it is for clients, right? For clients, they can consider that favorably, because I mean this liquidated damage or anything. It's not an intention of harming the contractor, right? So those sort of things, like I mean, if you prove it to the client or the consultant properly with the scientific method, okay, so then it is beyond your control, because now no point of penalizing people for the things which are beyond their control. So then it's fair enough for them to consider them for a extension. That's not a problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. We have one last question. So, as you mentioned earlier, that it is better to think about minimizing wastages in design stages. But how can we do that in the construction field? Like, how do we coordinate with related parties to achieve that?
No, I mean, it's like that because it is that something that you will do with the drawing board. So that when the project started with the detailed drawings and all sort of things, you can't change the sizes of these rooms and all that, no, right? So, I mean, then from the design stage, you have to think about, okay, I'm planning for this much of rooms where that the cut is less. Something like that, you are planning from the inception. The design things, you can't do any changes. Those things you can do it on the construction operation.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. So on behalf of the student chapter of Sri Lanka Association for Institution of Civil Engineers, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Asas Patiranage for the insightful and informative discussion today. Your expertise and practical strategies have undoubtedly equipped us with valuable tools to mitigate cost and time overruns in construction projects. I would also like to thank all our attendees for their active participation and engaging questions. Your involvement has made this webinar a resounding success. Once again, I thank you all for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar informative and beneficial for your professional endeavors. Thank you. Have a great day.